¿A dónde está papi? 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 ¿A dónde está papi?
Welcome to the Wednesday stream. I hope everyone's having an awesome day. Welcome everybody. Echo Wrestle Dragon, Dari, Bennett, welcome. It is one day closer to the weekend, folks. All right, we've got a few things to cover, and I am hungry. So let's get started. I think I got everything ready, I hope. All right. Make sure. Alrighty. I think we should probably start with some memes. So let's start with some memes, yeah?
There is no such thing as a non-living wage. Nobody dies on their wage.
Conservative propagandist Ben Shapiro claims that there is no such thing as a non-living wage.
Yeah, the fact that, like, Ben Shapiro and, like, the right wing needs to perform these Olympic levels of mental gymnastics to try to play like some semantic game as to like there's no such thing as a living wage because you don't live. It's just such a petty petty way of argumenting a point. Alio with the 12 biddies, thank you so much. To the point of absurdity.
Essentially saying that he could live off $1 a year. He'd be just fine because there's no such thing as a non-living wage. Well, let me play this ridiculous clip for you, and then I will break this down with actual facts over Ben's feelings.
Well, I mean, first of all, the wage to cost of living gap would not exist in the absence of regulation and subsidy, at least not nearly as much. The fact of the matter is that one of the reasons you have housing shortages in blue areas is because of development restrictions that are largely created by the left. The reason...
What? Regulation restrictions that are largely created by the left. That's interesting. I wasn't aware that the left was that powerful and had like regulatory positions.
You have massive inflation right now is, again, because of left-wing financial policy.
No. Also, like, take a note, how, like, Ben Shapiro doesn't even point to, like, a specific policy necessarily. He just, like, gestures vaguely by saying left-wing policies. What left... I'm sorry, who's in the White House right now? Let me rewind that for a second.
Is, again, because of left-wing financial policy.
What left-wing financial policy is in place at this time? Is there some kind of like financial policy where we are giving ownership to the workers? Is there some kind of financial policy that is anti-capitalist in nature? I must have missed that one. The truth is, what does Ben Shapiro and the GOP know about living wage would even be? Well, no, they don't believe... They're not lying when they say they don't believe in a living wage. Because they don't fundamentally want people to have a living wage. They don't want people to have a living wage at all. Because they don't care about the well-being of people. The intellectual word salad, in other words, unless the poor invent something, stay poor. Yeah, like that's basically it. It's this idea that, like, you know, if you are not Ben Shapiro, if you're not like on the top, you know, echelon, then sucks to suck. And they will argue for policies that are that maintain their position, and will advocate for policies that hurt the working class, even though they claim to be some kind of champions for the working class.
It tends to be that wages move in tandem with costs, generally speaking.
No. Not at all. Oh my goodness. Is this where like people get like kindergarten levels of understanding of how economics works? They like listen to this one Ben Shapiro clip and they're like, ah, yes, this makes sense. So I'm going to go ahead and regurgitate this. Like that guy who came in here, or like that person that came in here and attempted to argue with me in favor of capitalism, but made some ridiculous statements like the more jobs there are, the higher the wages go up. I mean, this is like kindergarten level understanding of how economics works, and then tried to say things like, oh, well, according to, your Marxist perspective, bro. I wasn't even using any Marxist perspective. Ben Shapiro, like a lot. I noticed that like a lot of these like right wingers, or at least like the very like pro like capitalist kind of deal, kind of people, fundamentally have absolutely no idea how it works. We know what leftist Ben Shapiro means is like Katie Porter and Warren and Bernie and AOC. Those people are saying economics and prices should be fairer. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, like they think they think that the Democratic Party is like some kind of left-wing party. No. There's nothing anti-capitalist about the Democratic Party, okay? There's nothing anti-capitalist about an administration who essentially assisted, or in a party in power, or the party in power, essentially assisted in breaking up a workers' strike. So no, there's nothing, not a lot of left in the Democratic Party, okay?
Because again, there is no such thing as a non-living wage. Nobody dies on their wage.
Nobody dies on their wage. I don't even know what that means.
That is not a thing that happens inside the United States. This is why when people say living wage, the question is, well, what do you mean by a non-living wage? Do you just mean
No. That's not what that means. A living wage, supposedly, in just like colloquial terms, when you talk about a living wage, it's just like obvious. A wage that would pay for living expenses. That's what a living wage means. It means you have the means to live. Who do you consider closer to the true left in our politics and in global politics? Global politics is something else because I'm not as familiar. But like, I mean, the closest thing you could talk about in terms of like being more left, having more anti-capitalistic sentiment, you're getting more into the realm of like a Bernie Sanders kind of guy. And even then, he's closer to, he's basically like a little bit to the left of like, he's a better version of FDR. Okay? He's like the non-asshole way of like, the non-asshole version of FDR. In other words, the poor stay poor, no modification of capitalism ever, and housing and job markets never change. Right, because it benefits, it benefits, you know, the wealthy people, and that's exactly how conservatives like it. Having enough money to survive, how hard is that to understand? No, they understand this perfectly well. Well, at least people like Ben Shapiro absolutely understand this perfectly well. They just have to perform Olympic levels of mental gymnastics to try to sell this bullshit to their audience. That's what it is. But they absolutely know very darn well what they're doing. Hey, Mayhem Hippie, how's it going?
a wage that you don't think is high enough, and for what job, and what does the market look like?
Like, yeah, like David's face kind of says it all. You know?
Come on now. Nobody dies on their wage. All right, I'll get to breaking this down. But first, it's still amazing. It will continue to be amazing to me that one of the sayings that Ben Shapiro is known for is facts don't care about your feelings. Facts don't care about your feelings. Here he is all feelings. In fact, the vast majority of his commentary is all feelings.
Yeah, because like he said a lot of bullshit in like the small segment that we watched, which kind of really illustrates just how little he either Either he absolutely has no idea on how like labor markets work, or is doing this on purpose.
I will present to you actual facts. It's just, it's constant garbage being spewed by these ridiculous clowns. But this one, I think most people just instinctually know he's full of shit. But those are still your feelings, so let me show you the facts to back up your feelings. First here, though, it's just worth mentioning. This doesn't define a person. Of course, you can learn, change, grow, and use your privilege, your power to do well. But Ben Shapiro was born into a very privileged family. Both of his parents worked in Hollywood. His mother was an executive of a TV company, and his father worked as a composer. This is the guy that rails against the Hollywood elites. Ben Shapiro hates Hollywood, but he was born into Hollywood. Anyways, these are all just clowns. All right. Let me first address the housing aspect of this just quickly, because he mentions here.
Yeah, it's because of regulation that there's a problem with the housing market, which is incorrect. If the right-wing pundits had to live on $20,000 a year, they would leave and start their own businesses. Half of the time, these people would not be able to do that. Okay.
The reason you have housing shortages in blue areas is because of development restrictions created by the left. I'm sorry. Is there guaranteed public housing in the U.S.?
No. There's no like legitimate like left-wing policies when it comes to housing, because like definitionally to be on the left there has to be some kind of like anti-capitalistic nature as part of an aspect. It doesn't define everything, but kind of like a piece of it is obviously anti-capitalist in nature, right? You wouldn't be advocating for I don't know, like regulations or anything like that when it comes to housing. You would be advocating for public programs to have a public housing across the board. That's more of a left-wing concept, having some kind of universal like housing program. That's a left-wing concept, or at least it's on the left. Having universal healthcare is more of a left-wing thing, because you're trying to eliminate private interest. That's what that means, more or less. Hey, Cosmic Seeking, how's it going? Indeed, it is Wednesday. Indeed.
Did I miss something? Because that is an actual left-wing policy.
Correct.
Guaranteed public housing. That doesn't exist in America. How can he possibly claim that the left is the reason why there is homelessness?
Right, because you have to perform Olympic levels of mental gymnastics to sell this shit. I mean, right, you don't get welfare. Pull yourself up by the bootstraps like I did. Yeah, exactly. Pull yourself up by the bootstraps like I did, as we find just how wealthy this trust fund baby is. Essentially, no, he's definitely wealthy. The right wing would have had too bad mouth. Many presidents, especially Lincoln, Lyndon B. Johnson, and Carter and FDR, for their these programs and stuff like that. Yeah, and which sometimes they do. It would legit be cheaper to just develop a universal standard for housing that everyone's guaranteed than constantly draining money into our current welfare and then paying that to demolish houses to protect abandoned houses or pay cops and other resources drained into homelessness and crime problems created by horrible housing systems. It just economically makes sense to just take care of people. It legit has a return on investment. Yeah, that's what I'm advocating for. I mean, I've said, well, I know I've seen you here for quite a while. at least a while. But like part of like the politics that I talk about, or politics that I have, is creating a system, or an ideal world in my head is a world that has, at least that's achievable here, that has food, housing, education, and healthcare. These are what I call, and the folks who have been here long enough know that I call them the 4 pillars: food, housing, education, and healthcare, for these exact reasons. It does make economic sense. It does have return on investment. It's just, it has a lot of positive externalities. I have a friend on disability that lives in the projects. She pays $1,100 a month for 2 bedrooms. How's that affordable housing? It isn't.
When the left is arguing for everyone to have a home. So an example of this, because, oh, David, that's so pie in the sky. You can't, there has to be homeless people.
Did you see Seattle's attempt at a towards socialized housing? I think it was worth a look. I was that something. Was that something recent? I might have covered it. I don't know. I see that they've invested in new affordable housing. Okay, I see. This is actually very recent. What is the diploma in the corner? Oh, that's my very important diploma. And the diploma is the diploma is exactly, it's a proof it's a proof of skill. Apparently I have been awarded in the year of our Lord, June 11th of 2049, from I received an a diploma certificate from the Advanced International School of Bullshit Detection. That's what it is. That's what I've been awarded. A certificate from the Advanced International School of Bullshit Detection. That's what that diploma that's what that diploma says. Wait, you want everyone to feel secure in the housing, healthcare, and education? How dare you? You want people to have a good life? Yeah, I know. I'm a dirty socialist. Yep. Shame. The move addresses an important issue, an issue important to the area's South Asian diaspora, especially the Indian and Hindu communities. Oh yeah, the caste system has been eliminated in Seattle. Yes. This is a good source too. Okay. We'll take a look at this. This just happened not too long ago, so we can take a look at that.
Vienna once undertook one of the most ambitious public housing programs ever. That is why it is the most livable city on earth. They have real, substantial public housing that has been there for years. And there is a lot of, you can read up on this if you don't know about this. I will link to this link below the video, but just do your own research. Search up Austria or Vienna public housing and you will find it. There is an actual blueprint here that other countries can look to solve any issues around homelessness, poverty. The solution is here in front of us. Yeah, we continue ignoring it because there are, of course, wealthy individuals in real estate that would not want you to be aware of this. So they keep buying up homes. The housing crisis is a whole other, of course, larger topic, but the way that massive corporations now are just buying up, entire communities and then renting out those homes is just absolutely disgusting. But let me get on to the poverty aspect of this, because again, Ben Shapiro claims nobody dies on their wage. Here is the Washington Post. The 2017 U.S. Census Bureau's official poverty measures reports that within the country, 40 million people, more than 1 in every 8 Americans, live in poverty. Almost half of them are categorized as indefinitely in deep poverty, living with less than $2 a day. Ben Shapiro claims if there is, that there is no non-living wage, then he would be able to live off $2 a day, I guess. He'd be.
Yeah. The US and Canada just thinks of housing as status and investment. Well, yeah, it's a commodity. It's a commodity on something that you don't really have much of a choice on. You need a house. You need something. You need a roof over your head. It's not really an option. Shapiro again mocking the living wage is not useful when hospital bills skyrocket. Yeah, and he doesn't care though. Like to him, if he sees somebody receive a $10,000 hospital bill, he'll just be like, well, that's just the way it is. If you can't pay, then sucks to suck. $2 a day. As someone that was homeless for 3 years, you cannot live off $2 a day. Yes, you cannot live off $2 a day. That is true.
Fine. He'd have no complaints. Put that together with the fact that in the US, about 2.6 million people die every year, and most of those deaths are associated with poverty. Going on, they write.
Right, because especially here, that is true, especially true here, because poverty does kill. If you're too poor to afford basic health care, preventative care that then progresses to something that you can't fix later on, because you're too poor, because we don't have a universal healthcare system, then yeah, poverty kills. Isn't GoFundMe something like the number one place where Americans gets hospital aid? Yeah, GoFundMe is definitely at the top of the list of a pseudo insurance company. Yeah.
More broadly, we found that low socioeconomic status was directly linked to bad health, which in turn...
Right, because if you don't have the money to pay for the basic doctor visit that could be preventable, that could be used as preventable care, you're just SOL. Our insurance covers up to $5,000 per year for 3 people. Our healthcare is a joke, and our dental and eye is basically a go F yourself. Yep. That's $5,000 for dental? Sheesh. Dude, $5,000 is could potentially be one visit. But the problem is if you don't take care of your teeth, then it's not $5,000. Then you've got to do a whole bunch of other work. It's bullshit. So I was homeless, and plus when a person works, 85% of income goes to rent. Yeah, if 85% of your income is going to rent, that is criminal. Water, transportation before food, and never mind the credit or loan game. Yeah, which is incredibly predatory. Yes.
Turn led to premature death. Such disparities aren't as extreme in other developed countries. The U.S. has the highest rates of poverty and wealth inequality among the world's wealthiest countries, such as Germany, Japan, and the United Kingdom. At the same time, it has lower rates of economic mobility than Spain. So, this alone shows you that the U.S. is an outlier, that there's a lot more that could be done. And to be clear, Germany, Japan, UK aren't perfect either. But compared to the poverty and the wealth inequality,
Yeah, and that's messed up, Mayhem Hippie. It shouldn't be that way. It is criminal that at 31, someone has to make the decision to pull, your teeth while you still had insurance, and not even be able to afford dentures because those cost a boatload. It's such BS. As conservatives will let you know, can't afford to be a doctor, be a construction worker. And when you get injured, there are a few doctors in your area and just die. True. You don't have healthcare, just join the military. True. And die in a foreign country we don't have the right to be in. Yep. Yeah, we're in hip deep in BS. Yep. How's it going, Maple? The UK is cruel to disabled people on UK Social Security, plus no lawyers allowed. Sheesh.
quality in the U.S., there is a massive difference there. And economic mobility. So there's always this idea that, only in America could you be born to two, working class parents and then grow up to become a billionaire or some garbage. In fact, it's the opposite. In the U.S., it is tougher to move out of the situation, of the economic situation you were born into, than in other major countries. In terms of health, the U.S. has the highest infant mortality rate among developed countries, as well as the lowest life expectancy overall. While the citizens of other wealthy nations live longer every year, in the U.S., longevity has declined for the second consecutive year, with early mortality concentrated among the poor. And this is a piece from 2018, so things have not improved since 2018.
True. Today's my Friday, and just finished my work week, so pretty good. Nice.
A lot has happened since then. Also worth mentioning here, Ben Shapiro went to Harvard.
Correct. It gets better. Now I have health issues due to dietary restrictions, due to no teeth. It's a vicious cycle. Yeah, if you don't have basic preventable care, you get so effed in so many other ways. And your teeth are so important. People don't realize your teeth are so important, and it's one of the last things that insurance companies will try to screw you out of. It's such bullshit.
He went to Harvard. So I'm saying that because here is a headline from the Harvard Gazette. New study finds 45,000 deaths annually linked to lack of health coverage.
Because they can't afford it.
Which, of course, is a direct result of poverty. So the study conducted at Harvard Medical School and Cambridge Health Alliance found that uninsured working-age Americans have a 40% higher risk of death than their privately insured counterparts, up from 25% excess death rate found in 93. So even though there is now, since this article came out, there is now the Affordable Care Act, more people have access to health care, the insane cost of healthcare, the out-of-pocket expenses, the co-pays, all that garbage, the cost of pharmaceuticals, all of that has gone up. People still, even with coverage, are finding out, hey, actually, even though I'm paying for insurance, this procedure isn't covered, and now I'm bankrupt again. Because medical debt is the most common form of bankruptcy in the U.S.
Yep.
That basically doesn't exist in other countries. If it does, it's like a few people a year. In the U.S., it is the most common form of bankruptcy, medical bankruptcy.
It is embarrassing.
Now, I want to get some reactions to Ben Shapiro's clip, because these were good as well. including links that were shared under the video, because universally under this clip that Jason Campbell posted, everyone's making fun of Ben Shapiro. So it's worth and pointing out how
Yeah, and everyone should.
ridiculous this claim is. So Scotty here on Twitter says the cost to buy a home 10 years ago was $265,000 and to rent one was $904. Now, as a result of inflation for the last 10 years, those prices are $442,000 to own and $1,180 to rent. Meanwhile, the minimum wage has remained at $7.25 an hour when it should have kept up with inflation to be $22.28 an hour. There are people, and actually, I'll show you right now, that work multiple jobs and can't afford to live. Maria Fernandez, this is a piece from HuffPost, who worked 4 jobs, dies while napping in car. So, by the way, she died because I think the fumes from her car, I don't know, it was a weird situation. But regardless, she was working 4 jobs and sleeping in her car. Anytime I see a headline like this, people working multiple jobs, I think back to George Bush, former President George W. Bush, where he was at it
GW.
was a campaign rally or something, but there was a woman who came up and was talking about how she works multiple jobs. And George Bush's reply was, you work 3 jobs. Uniquely American, ain't it? Yes. Yes, it is uniquely American. Though, I'm sure that, I know it definitely exists in other countries. But to the degree that exists in the U.S., it's a much greater degree than what many other countries experience. But the idea that you have to work multiple jobs and still have a hard time making ends meet is, it's sad. And the idea that someone like Ben Shapiro with a massive platform is spouting his nonsense does not help anything.
True. I had to join HUD, otherwise I can't afford rent or pay 90% of rent in market in Massachusetts. Sheesh. I've also met more people in other countries that have become self-made or living the American dream, like taking over family businesses, starting their own bars, starting their own local service, where we just don't hear about that because they aren't billionaires. And America loves to focus on the fact that in our country, you can hoard wealth to the detriment of others. True. In fact, it's encouraged and celebrated. Yes. Canada has it too.
Another headline here that was shared again below the responses to this clip. It's from The Guardian. How can a child die of toothache in the U.S. when a 12-year-old boy lost his life as a result of an untreated tooth abscess in Maryland in 2007? His story revealed how hard it can be for people on low incomes to get the dental care they are entitled to. Another example, insulin's high cost leads to lethal rationing. This is one that I'm sure many people have heard of, are aware of, or have experienced themselves, is because of the high cost of pharmaceuticals, that leads to rationing, meaning you're taking less than you should be taking for whatever issue you have. And oftentimes that leads to people getting sicker and dying because of it. Last thing here. In terms of pain, worry, and sadness, and how the poor compared to the wealthy. So pain, worry, sadness, and anger reported as experienced the day before or not are also all significantly higher among low-income cohorts than among wealthy ones, while reported satisfaction with with life as a whole is significantly lower, according to our analysis of Gallup data. So you see here, the poor experience
I can't get Section 8 because of my husband's
pain,
background.
worry, sadness,
Damn.
stress, and anger than those who are either in the middle class or rich.
Will class
so the cutoff is
warfare
about,
ever be settled? I don't know.
$75,000 a year. If you're making
That would be up to us.
about that, at least when this was taken, then your physical pain, worry, sadness, and stress and anger are much reduced compared to those that are making less than you. But yeah, it isn't just about death, which in itself is a serious issue that I already highlighted here. It's just about living every day. And because of the amount of worry, sadness, stress, and anger that people who are poor have, and just how many people are poor in the U.S. Again, about 1 in 8 live in complete poverty. Living with that every day, that life alone is
I had to do that 25 years ago, but not today, thankfully. yeah, I don't have medication that I would need to ration. Um, but yeah, whew, that's rough.
Incredibly tough. And to not use your privilege and your power and your wealth, in Shapiro's case, to fight for that, to try and advocate for those people, to try and bring everyone up to fight for a society that works for everyone.
But they're not interested in that. That's the thing. Like, they actively work against that concept. If you were to propose this concept to Ben Shapiro, he would laugh in your face. This idea that we should all be working together, this idea that things like healthcare should kind of be like a common good, this idea that everybody should have a roof over their head, this idea that in the wealthiest country in the world, there are hungry, homeless people without healthcare, that education is also one of the biggest sources of debt, he would laugh in your face. He's not in favor of that, and he will never advocate for that. Yeah, I also need people lower than me to be validated. Exactly. Working against that very concept is what pays him. Exactly. 100%. I suffered, so others must suffer. I also need people lower than me to feel validated. Exactly. Although let's be honest. With Ben Shapiro, it's more of the second part. Ben Shapiro's not suffered. I'm sorry. Have you ever played on stream Glenn Beck videos? It's painful and longer than Brand or Shapiro videos. Nah, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good.
To me, it's just disgusting. Whether or not he is, whether or not he's a true believer in what he is saying or not, doesn't matter. He is using his platform to spread trash, and ultimately, the people that are suffering at the bottom of society are the ones being most impacted by all of it.
True. All right. No, but your everyday conservative voter votes this way because they had it hard and want. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, like it's a tenet of conservatism. Yeah, sure. I agree with that. They think that giving people anything invalidates the work that they put in. Your farmer in Kansas is really against progressive shit because of how F they are. They got it as a worker, right? Instead of realizing that, like, hey, it's not the concepts that the left is presenting that's the problem. It's the system that we're currently in. With his grand reset theory is only slightly unpleasant for him and the end of America for everyone else. Alright. Let's switch gears really quickly. The EPA says it can fine Norfolk Southern $70,000 a day if it falls short of cleaning up and paying for the Ohio toxic train wreck. Yeah, okay. The EPA, the head of the EPA threatened expensive consequences if Norfolk Southern fails to fully clean up its toxic train wreck and pay for the fallout in East Palestine, Ohio. I think we're past this idea of just fining companies. They should just be nationalized. It is sad that many folks do not support change because they think there's a chance that they will be wealthy someday, so they want to keep the loopholes. Yeah. Hey, what's up? How's it going? Lack of empathy in older generations is part of it. Back in their day, they could support a family of 6 on one income. The only outcome I can see is for these big countries like the US and Russia and China is that they will probably collapse and split up into multiple countries that form unions. I mean, I don't know. If you consider that good or bad, it really depends, but I wouldn't call it the end. Well, people did not need a college degree back then. True. Finding companies does not work. Here's your slap on the wrist for polluting many communities across several states, killing entire ecosystems. Yes, which then they get to pass that cost on to the consumer. So, yeah, at this point, like, we're past that. They should just be nationalized. Tough shit if they can't handle it. They should just be nationalized. There's no reason why we need this to be a public entity anyway, private entity anyways. The EPA's new legally binding order set to effect on Thursday will ensure that Norfolk Southern pays for the mess that they've created. For weeks, residents have reported a variety of health problems since the Norfolk Southern train carrying toxic chemicals derailed and spewing black clouds of smoke over the community of about 5,000 people. To help prevent a deadly explosion of vinyl chloride, crews released toxic chemicals into a trench and burned it off. While the EPA says testing shows the air and municipal water are safe, Reagan said that those with symptoms they believe might be linked to the wreck should seek medical attention. Those residents should ensure that the state and local health agencies understand those experiences because as we force Norfolk Southern to take full accountability for what they've done, Norfolk Southern will pay for everything. The EPA cited its authority under Comprehensive Environmental Response Compensation and Liability Act. On Wednesday, Reagan summarized the EPA's demand to Norfolk Southern. Number 1, they'll clean up every single piece of debris, all the contamination to EPA specifications and satisfactions. Number 2, they'll fully pay for it at any moment. If we have to step in because they refuse to do anything, we will do the cleanup ourselves, and we can fine them up to $70,000 a day. When we recoup our total cost, we can charge them 3 times that amount of the cost to the federal government. That is what the law provides. With the potential of $70,000 a day might sound steep. Norfolk reported a record $4.8 billion operating profit last year. So chump change. Chump change. Dude, snow is burning black and not even melting. Sheesh. But the GOP are nasty and stubborn and definitely believe any changing the system should not be allowed, much less voted on. Yeah, here's the thing. Like, right now, at this very moment, the GOP is the one who is in the House, right? At this very moment, the GOP is in the House. It is incumbent upon them to put forth the legislation. They're the ones that control the flow of what gets brought up to the House floor. So it is upon the burden right now. The ball is in their court, for lack of a better term. The ball is on their court. But that also puts them in a very difficult messaging and rhetorical position, because they're going to have to backpedal decades of policy where oftentimes proudly saying how many regulations they cut, how much red tape they cut. So they're gonna have to either backpedal on all of that, or they're gonna have to square that circle. They're gonna have to, like, 1984 memory hole that and get to work. Both sides of Congress has a slim margin, yes, but if you give a regulatory bill, I'm pretty sure that the Senate will consider it. And I'm pretty sure that if it happens to pass the Senate, the president would sign it. They're gonna sit on it. Oh yeah, no, they can't. they're not going to do anything. That's exactly where I was going with that. They're not going to do anything because they're going to have to square that circle, or admit or backpedal decades of policy or rhetoric. Because of Satan, it's true. Marjorie Taylor Greene just committed treason by suggesting a national divorce that will never happen. Yeah, she's off in La La Land. She's in clown world. Okay, nobody should take anything Marjorie Taylor Greene says seriously, especially about things that she does not know anything about. Well, I guess in a rational world, no one should be taking anyone like that seriously. And then I remembered she won an election and is a current member of Congress. So, yeah, she's got to cope with her own divorce somehow. True. Maybe we're witnessing some projection. The company has said it's already working with the EPA and local crews on the ground since derailment on February 3rd. From day one, I made the commitment that Norfolk Southern is going to remediate the site, said the CEO and professional ghoul, Alan Shaw. We're going to do it through the continuous long-term air and water monitoring. We're going to help the residents of the community recover, and we're going to invest in the long-term health of this community. And we're going to make Norfolk Southern a safer railroad. Except here's the problem with like this here. These companies fought tooth and nail any regulation whatsoever. So, yeah, dudes, get effed. Sorry. I mean, small countries are easier to democratize and manage the economy, so maybe she's onto something. Off topic, but yay, our snow totals got bumped up. Nice. Norfolk Southern has committed millions of dollars worth of financial assets to East Palestine, including $3.4 million in direct financial assistance to families and $1 million to community assistance funds. Yeah, which amounted like to what, like $1,000? Yeah, okay, dudes, whatever. The ongoing cleanup efforts, including removing contaminated soil and water from under the railroad tracks at the derailment site. Tracks will be lifted to remove the soil. Governor DeWine said 4,588 cubic yards of soil and 1.1 million gallons of contaminated water have been removed so far. The contaminated soil became a point of contention after a public document sent to the EPA did not list soil removal as a complete cleanup activity. It is not yet known what significance or impact the soil that was not removed before the railroad reopened on February 8th will have on the surrounding areas. There's been a concern by citizens, very understandably, that the railroad got the tracks back on and started running, and the soil under the tracks had not been dealt with. So they're under the administrator's order that soil will be removed, and so the tracks will have to be taken up, and the soil will have to be removed. The derailment in East Palestine near the Ohio border with Pennsylvania led to evacuations in both states. Now, Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro claims Norfolk Southern gave officials inaccurate information in the days after the toxic wreck. In sum, Norfolk injected unnecessary risk into the crisis. He said Pennsylvania environmental officials have made a criminal referral against Norfolk Southern. After the accusations, Norfolk Southern issued a statement to CNN. Recognize that we have a responsibility and we've committed to doing what's right for the residents of East Palestine. Yeah, whatever, dudes. So essentially TLDR, possible fines and possible criminal referral against this company. In a rational world, we would have EVs for 40 years at least, and politicians would work towards meeting the needs of citizens, and government would be staffed with SMEs in each department. Yeah, I mean, true. yeah, the name of the town is East Palestine. Off topic, the Mass GOP said she had 602,000 in unpaid vendor invoices, a sum that would be more than 5 times what the party officials had estimated in unpaid debts last month. Carnival, however, said that many of the invoices are unsubstantiated, appears to not be the responsibility of the Massachusetts GOP party. Yeah, I mean, hey, Ms. Nixon, how's it going? Welcome, welcome. The toxic derailment has called for better safety and rail safety and fueled questions about current laws about the movement of toxic substances. Pete Buttigieg will visit East Palestine on Thursday after he announced new rail safety efforts. Ohio's governor said it's absurd that there's no legal requirement that requires Norfolk Southern to notify officials that a train with hazardous materials will be traveling through the state. There's something fundamentally wrong when a train like this could come into a state and the current law does not require, despite what they were hauling, does not require them to notify the state or local officials. Well, because people in your party have opted to loosen regulations. That's why. If you think that there's something fundamentally wrong with that, you're going to have to do some backpedaling here. The fact that this train did not qualify under current law requiring railroad companies to make that notification is just absurd. I mean, Biden called on Congress to implement rail safety measures and accused the Trump administration of limiting the government's ability to strengthen the rail safety measures. He vented his frustration in an Instagram post as more than a train derailment or a toxic water spill. It's years of opposition to safety measures coming home to roost. I mean, yeah. Ali with the 13 biddies, thank you so much. Oregon and Washington both experienced oil tanker on trains derailment. We had a derailment not too long ago in the gorge. Sheesh. All right. So taking a second to look at this, Seattle, it appears an initiative to bring social housing to Seattle will likely be approved according to the latest results released by King County Elections. The initiative, 135, leads by 22,000 votes, a 14% lead, and results are expected to be certified February 24th, 2 days from now. The initiative was placed on the ballot by the housing and homelessness advocacy group House Our Neighbors. Seattle City Council member Tammy Morales preemptively celebrated the initiative's passage Tuesday along with the House Our Neighbors Coalition, State Senator Rebecca Saldana, and Representative Frank Chop. Our communities just took a once-in-a-generation step to fixing our housing crisis. We've been working with community members on bringing social housing to Seattle since 2020. BRB need to catch the weather? No problem. Despite previous setbacks in the city, I'm proud to see community members are the ones to bring this model to Seattle. Hey, welcome everybody. With a massive raid of 135. Thank you so much, Left Flank Vets. Welcome everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Comrade Pesky, thank you for the follow. I appreciate that. Welcome. Synthotic Reverend Dan, thank you. Red Wizard, welcome. Folks, if you guys have not seen me before, I'm a Difficult Truth. I do the news, I do the politics, Monday through Thursday, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. If you enjoy your stay, don't forget to hit the like button, alright? Or follow button, I should say. You get 6 free emotes, including Bakita the cat, to add to your cat emote collection. Alongside the other cat emotes. I know Left Flank Vets have phenomenal cat emotes, so you can add to that by hitting the follow button. Thank you so much, Reverend Dan, Girl Bear, Dr. Rocket Face. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Welcome. Thank you, Marcus of Left Flank Vets. I appreciate that. Thank you for the raid. If you haven't already, please consider checking out twitch.tv/leftflankvets. Please also follow them on the Twitters. Phenomenal stuff. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Welcome, everybody. Just kind of a brief TLDR because we just kind of started this story. We just started this story, so I guess we can just go from here. Social housing is apparently moving forward in Seattle. The Initiative 135 would create a development entity called the Seattle Social Housing Developer. From there, the organization would use government money to set up plans for social housing, while money for building and maintaining social housing would come from government bonds. In December, in anticipation of the passage of I-135, Initiative 135, Morales started to work with CHOP and Saldana to effort $880,000 in operational funding for social housing through state legislature. The funding would cover startup costs for the Seattle social housing developer and provide seed funding for a city-run social housing fund, according to a statement from Morales. PNW. Excited for the 20 people that the mandatory funding could realistically house? I mean, it starts in the local area. That's how you win political victories. If you can prove that this concept works, you prove it this way. Congomatic, thank you for the follow. Welcome. Synthotic, thank you for the follow. I appreciate that. Social housing is government-managed apartments that are permanently affordable to people making a range of yearly incomes. As a result, social housing in Seattle could be available to people with zero income up to those of making middle-class salaries of 120% more of the median income. In this regard, it would mix middle-class renters with low-income tenants. Representatives with House Our Neighbors said that social housing serves several purposes. First, they insist that they would provide stability for both low-income and middle-class residents who are increasingly feeling the pinch of higher rent prices. Additionally, they said it would offset the inequities that would occur between low-income housing and newly built luxury apartments that feature high-end amenities at major prices. Representatives also said that higher income tenants would help offset the rent paid by low-income residents by contributing to necessary building maintenance costs and repairs. The King County election is expected to certify this result later this week. Eugene and Albany are also trying to make similar, and Albany's already building. Nice. Oregon. Sorry. Okay, gotcha. Oregon. Nice. I just hope that the mayor puts in way more than the legal minimum. Yep. We're trying to do something here in Tacoma, but it's in its early stages. Nice. See? That's what I'm talking about. Nice. This kind of stuff is good. All right, folks, let's switch gears. Let's see. I think we should probably do this here. I'm all for it because our shelters are church ran and hate people. Yikes. Let's talk about this for a second. Kevin McCarthy reportedly gave Tucker Carlson access to 40,000 hours of January 6th security footage. Nice, cool, excellent meme. House Speaker McCarthy has reportedly given Tucker Carlson exclusive access to the 41,000-hour trove of security footage from the U.S. Capitol on January 6th, according to CNN and Axios. The highly unusual move. Yeah, no shit. Holy yikes. The highly unusual move arrives after McCarthy faced significant pressure from his right flank to relitigate the House Select Committee that investigated the Capitol insurrection. And Carlson, meanwhile, is among the probe's most outspoken non-congressional critic, having repeatedly questioned the government's official account of what happened. As Axios notes, the committee shared... Jesus, that's one way of putting it. The committee shared multiple experts from the footage as its multiple hearings in 2022, but Carlson has argued on his show as recently as January for government to release the full cache. There was never any legitimate reason for this footage to remain secret. Carlson told Axios' Mike Allen, if there was ever a question that's in the public's interest to know, it's what actually happened on January 6th. I mean, first of all, we all saw what happened. We all saw what happened. I saw what was going on. It was being streamed live. And then there was like a archive of like 500 hours of like footage that was available. How is that legal? I don't know. Which means they're no longer classified and can be FOIA'd now. Gotcha. Yeah, that's the question. Why does he get it? Why does he get exclusive? Like, if you're making the argument that it's in the public interest to know, then wouldn't you just release it and let the public see it? Instead of now, you're giving Tucker Carlson the complete running start on how they're going to spin this narrative. Releasing all this will make it easier for future traders to invade the Capitol. Yep. Oh, God. If there was ever a question of what's in the public's interest, no, it's what actually happened. Yeah, okay. The problem isn't that it's not... It's impossible for me to understand... This is Tucker Carlson, by the way. To understand why any honest person would be bothered by that. It's not that the thing is being released. That's the problem. The problem is, why do you get exclusive access to it first? Instead of, if it is truly in the public's interest, or at least that's your argument, wouldn't the proper move then be to just release it instead of giving it through a propagandist? Per CNN, several Republican lawmakers were hoping to comb through the security footage on their own, likely to hunt for footage that support their controversial claims. But by giving the videos to Carlson, McCarthy is essentially outsourcing that task to right-wing media, at least for the moment. Yeah, they get to have a head start on how they're going to spin this shit, because maybe that kind of gives it away, doesn't it? It must be really bad. It must be really bad if you're like needing to give Tucker Carlson exclusive first dibs to see how they're gonna spin and how they're gonna spin this shit. So it must be bad. Thank you for the follow, Mike Mizak. Appreciate that. Welcome. I heard it was all being put online publicly. I don't know. To my understanding, the report here is that Tucker Carlson got exclusive first dibs. He got the entire video of them setting up the gallows. Yeah. There's no state-sponsored media in America. Exactly. How are we going to argue? How are we going to argue that like something like, Fox News isn't like just blatant propaganda if you have like the Republican Party, and specifically the Speaker of the House, who is a powerful politician, who has a powerful position, giving exclusive first dibs to this far right media propagandist. That's not scary at all. But giving the videos to Carlson, McCarthy is essentially outsourcing this task to not just right-wing media, far-right media, at least for the moment. The January 6th member, Benny Thompson, had some choice words to the speaker regarding this decision. It's hard to overstate the potential security risk if this material were to be used irresponsibly. If Speaker McCarthy has indeed granted Tucker Carlson, a Fox host who routinely spreads misinformation and Russian President Putin's partisans' propaganda, and his producers access this sensitive footage, he owes the American people an explanation as to why he has done so and what steps he has taken to address the significant security concerns at stake. In 2021, Carlson produced Patriot Purge, a history-rewinding docuseries that claims to tell an alternate story of the insurrection. Per The Hill, features at least one source claiming that the insurrection was a false flag operation. Yeah. Okie dokie. Sure, bud. And this is the person that gets first dibs? Ah. Tucker Carlson must have needed a fresh... Oh, God. Yeah, fair and balanced, true. You know, just normal stuff happening. Normal stuff happening. Can you imagine if this headline read, I don't know, what's like a popular name? Can you imagine if the headline read, Speaker Pelosi provided 40,000 hours of the January 6th insurrection to Don Lemon or I don't know, what's the other like popular name? Rachel Maddow or something like that. Can you imagine? This would be wall-to-wall coverage on right-wing media about how this is literally 1984. Non-stop 24/7. Jake Tapper gets exclusive access to Mayor Pete's wine cellar footage. True. That's a good meme. So to piggyback off that, hey, here's some cool news. Former Attorney General in key state withheld evidence debunking the 2020 election fraud. Things just keep getting better, folks. Former Attorney General, I have a theory. Carlson has been given the 40k hours of material, so it'll be buried and never see the light of day. No. What's gonna happen is he gets first dibs, and he's gonna have plenty of time, to try to figure out, what amount of Olympic levels of mental gymnastics are going to be necessary to spin whatever bullshit narrative is gonna come out. I mean, it's already, like, the prime has been pumped already with that bullshit docuseries and suggesting that this is some kind of false flag or whatever bullshit. So the pump has been primed. So, who knows? Sean Hannity gets exclusive access to Hunter Biden dick pics and cocaine. Yep. True. The former Attorney General of Arizona, new headline, Tucker Carlson starts editing new movie titled The Downfall of America, How the Left Destroyed Freedom. True. We're gonna get another docuseries episode about how it's the left that actually was involved in the insurrection. And you know, the only response left was to perform insurrectionary behavior. Yep. It's all the left's fault. The former Attorney General of Arizona, Mark Brnovich, failed to release documents that showed his office's investigation into the 2020 election did not find any evidence of widespread fraud in the state's most populous county. Remember, Arizona was a very big deal. in that election. And he purposely withheld that information. Like, take a second to absorb that. So, to lay it out, you have the Republican Party colluding in multiple states to shoehorn fake electors to overturn the 2020 election on the lie, on the conspiracy theory that there was shenanigans involved in multiple states, including Arizona. That's what they claimed. That led to an insurrection. It got people hurt and it got people killed. And this absolute asshole decided to hide the documents that would have shown people that actually, these claims are bullshit. Yes, and the most populous county contains about 65% of the state's population. How's it going, the simulacra? Remember, folks, no reasonable person would believe anything that Tucker Carlson says. So says Fox News. Yes, according to Fox News, yes, Tucker Carlson is not to be listened to. Any reasonable person would not be taking up anything what he says as truth or as news. But the problem is there's so many folks who are unreasonable, who actually believe this garbage, that it's incredibly worrying. The right wing and pundits with the culture war. What is MAGA the culture? And then that is accurate. I'm not sure what that means. Those Phoenix lights are sketch. Isn't Arizona population like 80% Maricopa? Yep. And 20% sovereign citizens? True.
Please clap.
Anyways, the point being is to lay that out so that we don't forget exactly what we're dealing with here. You have the Republican Party have a working together in multiple states, colluding to shoehorn fake electors to overturn the 2020 election. And one of those states was Arizona. And here we have the ex-attorney general hiding evidence showing that this election fraud, whatever bullshit, conspiracy theory was nonsense. The Washington Post reported on Wednesday that Brnovich would not turn over public records. Public records. Bro, you shouldn't have a choice here. If they're public records, you shouldn't have a choice unless you have sensitive information or whatever. That detailed his investigators' findings. His successor, the Democratic Attorney General Chris Mays, released these records, which shows several reports that debunk the rampant claims of election problems in Maricopa County. Arizona should be renamed West Florida. True. Brnovich, who is a Republican, was running for U.S. Senate in 2022, while his office oversaw an investigation into the 2020 election. He released 2 reports related to the work, one that showed just one example of a dead person voting, and one interim report that made the nebulous, unfounded criticism of the county's election. But the unreleased reports show Brnovich's investigation did not agree with some of the assertions he made publicly, such as that the county did not follow proper signature verification, or that the county had not been responsive to his request for information. In an interview to the Guardian, with the Guardian on Wednesday, Mays said that her office discovered a bunch of unfulfilled record requests upon taking over in January. She also wanted to find any potential final reports for the 2020 investigation, which was not found. Her office released 2 additional interim reports and an investigative summary, all which are publicly posted on the website, on the Attorney General's website. This office has a solemn duty to be honest and transparent with the people of Arizona. The dark cloud cast over the 2020 and 2022 elections because of this insane conspiracy theories perpetuated by high-profile election deniers, not just high-profile Not just high-profile election deniers, Republicans. Okay? Republicans. This is the only people that are engaged in this behavior. And its election officials, I believe that the people of Arizona had a right to know this information before the 2022 election. Unfortunately, that did not happen. The investigation is considered closed, although there are hundreds of more documents going through the redaction process that will be released once the office has completed that process. The office under Brnovich spent 10,000 hours on the investigation, and each of its 60 investigators spent at least some time on it, the Post reported. May said it's hard to put a dollar figure on how much that cost the state or taxpayers, but the whole effort was clearly a distraction from the core mission of this office. But I also want to say I'm incredibly proud of the work the agents and support staff who worked on the investigations did. They did so diligently, thoroughly, and professionally as they do all their work here. May said that she did not get any insight into why Brnovich did not release the information while he was in charge, saying Brnovich would need to answer that for himself, and Brnovich did not respond to requests for comment. I mean, it's quite obvious. It's quite obvious. This clown was an election denier. This Republican was an election denier. So any evidence that would show any evidence that would be to the contrary of that, he just memory hold. He just memory hold that. Yep, I'm just not going to talk about this. I'm just going to avoid sharing this very important information with the public. Do you want to talk about literal 1984? This kind of failure to release information to the people of Arizona is not how this office will operate going forward under my leadership. My administration will be truthful and transparent. The Post report compelled election officials throughout the state to comment on the revelations, especially those who Brnovich had previously criticized publicly. Clint Hickman, the chairman of the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors, said he was absolutely disgusted that Brnovich concealed reports on the 2020 election and applauded Mays for finally releasing the documents. He implored people who care about elections to read these reports. They won't, because it's not about elections. This was a gross misuse of his elected office and an appealing waste of taxpayer dollar, as well as a waste of time and effort of professional investigators. He pointed to the onslaught of threats and harassment the board, election officials, and election workers have faced while false claims of impropriety lingered for years. Yeah, that's another thing. These people, these election workers, the people who are on the boards, they got death threats. And I believe in several other places. I'm not sure if this happened in Maricopa, but in several other places, people showed up. People stalked them. In numerous different counties, election officials have had to resign because they just couldn't deal with it anymore. And this asshole was concealing information or failed to release information that showed there was no impropriety. For 3 years, my colleagues have been called traitors and cheaters and liars, and those are just some of the names that I can print. It has been absolute hell on all of us, and I would do it again in a second, and I would believe every member of this board would do it again because of all of us stayed within the law. Stephen Richer, the county's Republican recorder, noted two elements of the reports where investigators contradicted Brnovich's interim report by saying that the county had been responsive and followed signature verification procedures. The notes from the investigators distinctly show the ways in which our office cooperated with and supported the Attorney General's office in the development of last year's interim report. The January 6th commission covers the 2020 fake election of Trump and Lindell. Yes, we know. Why is stochastic terrorism legal? I have no idea. But there should be some kind of there should be some kind of way to address this, right? Because like stochastic terrorism is definitely a thing. And I think that it can be traceable, right? Because it's certainly not, in this case, it's certainly not like the Democratic Party. It's definitely the Republican Party, and it's definitely people like this clown who deliberately hid information. For the distinct purposes of continuing to throw gasoline on the fire. Why do victims have to prove they don't deserve it? Correct. The lady who bombed the Boston Children's Hospital is going to jail, but Matt Walsh will not. Correct. It's unbelievable. Trump and his buddies making it's just wild. It's just wild that there's like no real good way of like addressing this problem. Which is why like the right is so effective at doing it, right? And they use that as a shield. Correct. Just because you can't pronounce it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Correct. Trump and his buddies making civics in the country worse. True. Arizona Secretary of State Adrian Fontes, a Democrat who in 2020 was the Maricopa County recorder, said he was deeply disappointed by the wasteful and pointless actions by a top law enforcement official who diverted thousands of hours of staff time to pursue unfounded allegations of election fraud. Yep. And we only know this because the Democratic Attorney General won and released this information. That is the only reason we know. That is the only reason we know. All right, folks. Before we get into this, I do want to ask if you guys want to support the channel and cannot do so financially, and you want to really support the channel, I would definitely appreciate if you head on over to the YouTube channel and hit the big red subscribe button. It really does help us out. We are at 217 subscribers. Unreal. So if you guys want to keep supporting the channel, follow this channel here on Twitch and hit the big red subscribe button on the YouTubes. It really does help us out. So if you have a second, please click that subscribe button. I'm subbed on YouTube. Thank you. I appreciate that. All right. Let's talk about this here. As wildfire grows, millions of homes are being built in harm's way. Done! Thank you, I appreciate it. Across the western U.S., wildfires are growing larger and more severe as global warming, climate change intensifies. At the same time, new data shows more Americans than ever are moving to parts of the country more likely to burn, raising the odds of catastrophe. Yeah, in 2020, more than 16 million homes in the West were located in fire-prone areas near forests, grasslands, shrublands, where the risk of conflagration are the highest. That's a rise from roughly 10 million homes in 1990, according to the research published on Friday from the University of Wisconsin-Madison, the United States Forest Service, and the United States Forest Service. That's the perfect storm, said Volker Raduloff, a professor of forest ecology at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, who helped lead the research. Millions of homes have been built in the place that will sooner or later burn. He said even as climate change increases the risk of major wildfires across the West with extreme heat and dryness. Nowhere this dynamic is more visible than California, where 8 of the largest blazes on record have struck in the past 5 years. The state now has roughly 5.1 million homes in what is known as the wildland-urban interface, the term for areas often on the outskirts of cities where houses and other development are built near or among flammable wild vegetation. The foothills of Sierra Nevada mountains have seen especially fast growth. In 1990, there was already a substantial housing development in the fire-prone Sierra foothills. By 2020, the development had pushed further into the formerly wild lands. Many of these areas have repeatedly burned or been menaced by wildfires during that period. When wildfires erupt, they tend to inflict most of their damage in these transitional zones where homes and businesses encroach on otherwise undeveloped wilderness. Examples include the Camp Fire in 2018 that incinerated the forests around the town of Paradise, California, or the Woolsey Fire that same year, which tore through shrub and grass-covered canyons northwest of LA and burned more than 1,600 structures. There's no single reason for the explosion of development in the wildland-urban interface, pronounced WUI, as some people move to live closer to nature or because costs are lower. In California, many cities have restricted development in denser downtown areas, exacerbating the state's housing crisis and pushing people to the outer fringes. And by large, most new development housing construction in California has been going on in the periphery of existing urban areas. Said Karen Chappell, a professor of city and regional planning at the University of California, Berkeley, and co-author of a report of rebuilding after wildfire disasters. It's happening because that's where the land is cheap. So we end up putting housing in these very vulnerable areas. Similar trends can be seen throughout the West. In Colorado, the number of homes built in the wildland-urban interface has nearly doubled to more than 1 million since 1990. Some of the fastest growth has unfolded along the Front Range, where the number of large, high-severity fires have increased in recent decades. Texas now has 3.2 million homes in the WUI and saw the fastest growth of any state over the past decade. While some of Texas' most destructive wildfires have been enforced, many of its wildlands consist of grasses and shrubs where fires can spread more rapidly and often damage more homes. Last year, the state climatologist's office warned that wildfire risks were growing as the state dries out. The rapid growth of housing in flammable areas is a key reason wildfires have become more destructive over time. Not only are the homes themselves more likely to burn, but when people live near forests and grassland, there's also a greater chance that fires will start in the first place. Wildfires are often sparked by lightning. Humans themselves cause the vast majority of ignitions, often by accident, a cigarette thrown out the window, or a vehicle's muffler setting fire to dry grass. Most homes in fire-prone territory also increase the demand for firefighting in often difficult terrain, which can stretch fire suppression resources thin and in turn lead to a dangerous buildup of vegetation in areas that experts would say benefit from burning at low level more frequently. Wildfires have been a long natural part of the Western landscape only become disasters when humans are in the path. The more homes we have in wildlands, the more people we have to protect, the more people need to be evacuated. It becomes more of a challenge. Yeah, like a loop, a feedback loop. The researchers estimate that 136,000 homes were within perimeter of Western wildfires in 2010, compared with fewer than 31,000 in 1990. Some of that increase occurred because fires are burning ever larger amounts of territory, but about 1/4 of the homes threatened by wildfire over the past decades did not exist in the 90s, indicating that housing growth in the wildfire territory was a key driver in the rise in fire danger. Don't the lands need to burn periodically? Yes. The problem is that we're not really taking care of it very well. That's the problem. We have this sort of two-headed monster, said Stephen Strader, a disaster scientist at Villanova University, who is not involved in the research. One side is a changing environment and the atmosphere being altered by climate change, but if you look at that in isolation, you forget about the other side. Society is changing and our cities are changing and our land is changing. Right, both, however, both are being fueled by humans. And incidentally, both are exacerbated by the very systems that we live under. Capitalism. All these conditions are coming together and it creates a more disaster-prone society. While the new data only runs to 2020, a separate report by the Redfin, the Seattle-based real estate brokerage, found that demand for homes in fire-prone areas have continued to grow since coronavirus pandemic began, as remote work allowed Americans to move further from job centers. Wildfire experts say it's unlikely that Western states will ever be able to stop all the growth in the wildland-urban interface, but alongside efforts to improve forest management in these areas, government could impose tighter restrictions on future development to ensure that communities are better protected against fire dangers that are unavoidable. So much of the West is wildfire prone that it's a non-starter to say you shouldn't live anywhere near there's a risk. Said Molly Maury, a executive director of the Community Wildfire Planning Center, a Denver-based nonprofit. It is much more productive to focus on whatever we can do to protect our homes and neighborhoods when fire does arrive. Such protections include creating more defensible space around homes and neighborhoods cleared of brush and vegetation, to keep blazes at a distance. It would mean building houses so that they're better protected against burning embers carried by the wind, which often cause structural fires by blowing into homes through vents in eaves or sides. In 2008, California adopted some of the strictest rules in the country for new homes in high-risk fire areas, requiring developers to use fire-resistant material and provide access to water for firefighters. Those rules can make a difference. After the Campfire One analysis found that 51% of 350 single-family homes in Paradise built to new codes escaped the damage, compared with just 18% of the 12,100 homes built before the standards. So the developers have to be regulated? Yes. Apparently. Because if it was up to them, obviously they would cheap out. Most Western states don't have statewide codes, however, and it's usually up to local governments to enforce their own standards. In 2019, Austin, Texas, one of the fastest growing cities in the country, took matters into its own hands, adopting a stringent rule for new homes in the WUI, and that require, for instance, non-combustible screens over attic vents and safer storage of propane tanks. Yet building codes for new construction only goes so far because they don't address the millions of vulnerable homes that have already been built. Properly protecting an existing home can be expensive, costing up to $27,000, which means that the government may need to step in and help. For now, progress remains patchy in many regions. Developers have resisted new regulations, warning that they could drive up housing costs. Well, you know what else drives housing costs? Having to rebuild constantly. Even as communities suffer from a wildfire, the pressure to rebuild quickly without new requirements is intense. Too many places are still operating under the mindset that they can keep building in high-risk areas, and if there's a wildfire, the firefighters will come and save their homes. Once we realize that we're not going to get stop every last fire, we can start thinking about how to live with the fire. Jesus Christ. There are signs that things may be changing after the Marshall Fire in Boulder in late 2021 destroyed more than 1,000 buildings. Lawmakers in Colorado began discussing new statewide codes, although they have yet to adopt any. And over the past decade, California's had more homes outside the WUI than within it. Dr. Radoff said it's still too early to tell whether that's a sign of changing attitude towards fire risk. It's a beautiful place to live. But as a society, we really have to wrap our heads around what living so close to nature really entails. Yeah. Cool. That's a good meme. Yeah, so we can stop, trying to use, like, the excuse of, oh, well, they still build houses in, like, disaster prone areas. Yeah. Because they intend to make money and peace out before anything happens. The same goes for why they're developing on the coast. Even though sea level rise is becoming more and more of a problem. Alright, folks. Let's talk about this Politico article, yeah? Biden may not run and top Dems are quietly preparing. Well, this is an interesting turn of events. Thank you to the 2 folks who have subscribed to the YouTube channel. I appreciate that. Joe Biden's closest advisors have spent months preparing for him to formally announce his re-election campaign, but with the president still not ready to make the plunge, a sense of doubt is creeping into conversations about 2024. What if he decides not to? I mean, he said he was supposed to be a one-time president anyways. Biden's past decisions around seeking the presidency have been protracted, painstaking affairs. This time he has slipped past his most ambitious timetable as previously outlined by advisors to launch in February. Now they're coalescing around April. But even that target is less than definitive. People in the president's orbit say there's no hard deadline or formal process in place for arriving at a launch date decision. According to 4 people familiar with the president's thinking, a final call has been pushed aside as real-world events intervene. His cloak and dagger trip to Kiev over the holiday weekend took meticulous planning, and the positive reaction to it was seen internally as providing him with more runway to turn back to domestic politics. While the belief among nearly everyone in Biden's orbit is that he'll ultimately give the all-clear, his indecision has resulted in an awkward deep freeze across the party, in which some potential presidential aspirants and scores of major donors are strategizing. Cool. Nice meme. And even beginning to develop a plan B while trying to remain respectful and publicly supportive of the 80-year-old president. I love how, like, it's so out there that's like, yeah, dude, when it comes to like selecting presidential candidates, we need to like huddle and have meetings with potential donors, major donors who clearly have a stake. The DNC chooses who? Porter? No. Katie Porter hasn't announced. Kamala Harris hasn't announced, and Bernie is not going to run again. I don't think so. The Democratic Governor Pritzker of Illinois, Gavin Newsom, and Phil Murphy have taken steps that could be seen as aimed at keeping the door cracked if Biden bows out, though with enough ambiguity to give them plausible deniability. Senators like Bernie Sanders and Amy Klobuchar have been making similar moves. If Bernie Sanders runs for president, I would be very surprised. Yeah, Katie Porter's running for Senate. Bernie's an independent. He might run. I mean, if he does, I'll be very surprised. Hey, Thinking Sabercat, you need to connect your channels together as you keep running your stream while Jason Society and USA Hole is on. You need a pair of stoners on here just to please me. Consider it reparations. Oh my goodness. Get out of here. Get out of here, Thinking Sabercat. USA Hole is pretty cool. Bernie is an independent. He might run. Bernie will never get it, sadly. They need someone younger that can have passion and change and call for change that will motivate Gen X and millennials. Newsom from CA, from California, dated Kim Guilfoyle, now with Donnie Jr. Yeah. I mean, Gavin Newsom, would be someone who might be someone who throws like a their hat in the ring. Hey, Rye, how's it going? We need a new age JFK. Yeah, something like that. We need the Gavinator. Oh God. Oh, what have I done? We need a real, we need a progressive. That kind of stamina and following, not their policies. Yep. Gotcha. I'd say really what is needed is the Labour Party, as it's obvious the Democrats are making it harder for progressives to run. I mean, in an ideal scenario, yeah, you would like to see a scenario where there's, better representation. I don't know, JFK done some odd shit himself, but we do need JFK charisma in the president. Right now, we're getting tired of old men. Tired of old white men in particular. Newsom could at least contend with Trump in a debate. I mean, yeah. I think, although to be quite fair, I think literally anybody, like a rock, could contend with Trump in a debate. People directly in touch with the president describe him as a kind of Hamlet on Delaware's Christina River, warily biding his time as he ponders the particulars of his final campaign. In interviews, these people relayed an impression that the conventional wisdom in D.C., that there's simply no way he passes on 2024, has crystallized too hard too soon. Literally. Newsom says, too much. Hello, person who has managed to find themselves in this channel. Well, if you plan to troll here, just word to the wise. Not a good idea. Mayhem Hippie with the 1,000 biddies. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. At the moment, you have a libertarian part of nutters as a green party with anti-vaxxers, a conservative party of the Democrats, and a bonkers black-pilled far-right Republican party. Just a left-center party would get a big very fast. True. I saw a line at the calling for public execution. Yeah, I draw a line at calling for public execution of drug users too fashy, in my opinion. Yeah, I mean, that's Trump. Yeah. I'm not sure I just got banned for not agreeing. We'll see. Are we not at the point where we need something more ideal than the nothing we're being offered? We've been at that point, like, forever. We've been at the point. Time for the Labour Party in America? How do we suppose we make that happen? How do we suppose we make that happen? Come up with a plan? And then do it. Yeah. Okay. It's a ridiculously high bar to have new parties enter federal politics. Yeah. Has to be something interesting if it can get banned in Hassan's channel and how many people chat. True. Thinking Sabercat with 110 biddies. An orange beanie with maybe a cat ears. True. While we're at it, let's come up with a plan for world peace. True. True. Now we're getting it. If this political article is accurate, the DNC is keeping quiet. Maybe. Alio with another 11 biddies. Whew. Sheesh. You guys are on fire today. Yeah, Bernie was a Hail Mary play at the last quarter. If you want to make that a sports ball analogy. I mean, like, the only like viable plausible plan that I can think of, like realistically, like just thinking with feet on the ground, is to continue to push for ranked choice voting in as many places as possible, to give potentially a third party some kind of viability. I think that if you want a third party to become somewhat viable, then you need to play state by state politics to try to get some type of ranked choice voting. Abolish the electoral college? Not in our scenario. As undemocratic as the electoral college is, to upend that is going to take a lot more work than we have time for. What about a Trump and Bernie? Nah. They got in the ballot, but they were huge disinformation campaigns. Yeah, I mean, that's the only way to get there. We'd get universal health care before we abolish the electoral college. I mean, yeah. The Republican Party had a version of the A-Team in the 70s called Team B. It's worth looking up as most of their parts of the Bush administration and neocons were ex-Team B members. Gotcha. What about Newsom and Porter as Dem choices? Katie Porter is running for Senate. Katie Porter is running for Senate, so that's pretty much a no-go. And if it's like a situation where it's Newsom versus like Trump, then I'm gonna choose Newsom over Trump. It's just that simple. Yeah, Katie Porter is running for Senate. Barbara Lee is also running for Senate officially. So, honestly, either one of those is fine by me. I would choose moldy raisin bread over Trump. True. Anyone can resign their job or post and run for president. Yeah, but she's not intending to do that. This is the closest we could get to abolish. Oh, yeah. You're right. This is a way of trying to kind of circumvent that. You're right. I forgot about this. This is a way to not necessarily abolish it, to Mayhem's point, but it is a way to kind of like circumvent that. Right, it would make it irrelevant. Yeah. I mean, you may not be able to quote-unquote abolish the electoral college, but you can push in your state to try to make this a thing. That's something feasible. Trump has a 42% lead on, and DeSantis, the scene parties as a teacher are finally losing him ground. As DeSantis has very unwisely said he will sue people instead of explaining himself, but actually Liz Cheney could be a possibility if Trump and DeSantis destroy each other. No way, not a single chance. Liz Cheney is not going to run, and if she did run, there's no way. There's no way that she would have a shot. In terms of like against someone like Trump in the Republican primary, nah. I welcome any push that goes that way, but I don't realistically expect that it's going to be a thing. If someone wants to put that on the ballot, sure. Yeah, but this is a way to like actually get some kind of like result here. This is a more feasible path. In the immediate. Yeah, Nikki Haley also doesn't really have that much support. So she doesn't have a chance. Liz Cheney is going to be seen as like a rhino, a traitor to the dear leader. Like Liz Cheney's not going to have a chance either. That's probably why she's not even going to think about running. I mean, who else is there? Mike Pence? He's not going to make it. He's not going to get close. Pompeo? Mike Pompeo? He doesn't have a shot either if he decides to run in the primary. Mike Pompeo is not going to have a shot. Not a single shot. Pence doesn't even come close and he polls better than Haley. Yep. Anyways. Yeah. Depends on if Trump makes it there. Seeing him talk on Rumble, he doesn't look that well. Maybe the years of food and coke addictions finally catching up. Nah, he's gonna run, and he's probably gonna make it to the election. Okay. My impression is that Trump might actually go with Marjorie Taylor Greene or Haley. Nah, no. I mean, maybe Marjorie Taylor Greene. I don't know. It doesn't matter. I'm just guessing here. Carrie Lake. Oh, God. DeSantis will take Trump only because he's actively passing MAGA legislation, and Trump has already spoke on taking Marjorie Taylor Greene as a running mate. She's also very likely to get a VP pick. Yeah, I mean, anyone who's like on this election denial kind of deal has a chance. Anyways, an inertia has set in. One Biden confident has said it's not that he won't run, and the assumption is that he will. Trump and Carrie Lake is too extreme. What are you talking about? It's the Republican Party. That's literally the face of the Republican Party right there. If you were to see a ticket, a hypothetical ticket of Trump and Carrie Lake, you wouldn't be like, wow, that's too extreme. No, you would be like, damn. I mean, yeah, they're extreme. But I'm saying that this is the Republican Party. So it wouldn't really necessarily be surprising or extreme for them. Right, it's not like the fringes. So like to say that this is extreme, their policies and their positions and their politics are extreme. However, that is the new norm for the Republican Party, if that makes sense. The stasis hasn't always been pronounced. After former President Trump's launch in November, there was a desire among Biden advisors to begin charting their own kickoff plans in earnest. That urgency is no longer evident. They feel no threat of a credible primary challenge, a dynamic ode to Democrats' better than expected midterms, and a new early state presidential nominating calendar handpicked by Biden. Holding off on signing campaign paperwork also allows Biden to avoid having to report a less than robust fundraising total for a first quarter that's almost over. You have to win independents over, though. The Republican Party isn't interested in that. As the limbo continues, Biden's advisors have been taking steps to staff a campaign in line with his top super PAC, Future Forward, which has been airing TV ads in support of the president's agenda, would likely to be Biden's primary super PAC, although other groups have had a share in the campaign's portfolio. A person with the familiar with the plans has said, "How close do you think it is to McCarthy getting the 5-vote thing? As seeing him on Fox the other day, he looked to act like he's actually terrified every time he goes on Congress, like a man on the steps of the guillotine." Yeah, I mean, she's got her name out because she consistently claims voter fraud during a primary, so it's a Trump move. Yep. Well, then the Republican Party will lose. Yep, probably. Probably. Extreme would be a ticket of Mike Lindell and coked up Florida Karen. Anyways. Yeah, the Republican Party is probably going to lose the general election. Yeah, that's probably going to be the case. But to the surprise of some Biden allies, they say he has talked only sparingly about a possible campaign. 3 people familiar with the conversation have said. His daily focus remains on the job itself, except for the occasional phone call with an advisor to review polling. He spends little time discussing the election. While First Lady Joe Biden signaled long ago that she's on board with another round summit in the president's orbit, now wonder if the impending investigations into Hunter Biden could cause the president to second-guess a bid. Oh, man. Others believe it will not. We were talking about Trump. His first big thing he tried was the Muslim ban. Yep, most independents aren't really independents. They lean one way and are just infrequent voters. They need to be activated. Sure, but winning them suggests it's a contest when often it's not. Yeah, that's a good point. A decision from Biden to forego another run would amount to a political earthquake not seen among Democrats in more than half a century, when Lyndon B. Johnson paired his partial halting of the U.S. bombing of Vietnam with its announcement to step aside, citing deepening divisions in the American House now. It would unleash an avalanche of attention on his vice president, Kamala Harris, whose uneven performances have raised doubts among fellow Democrats about her ability to win either primary or the general election or both. Jesus Christ. And it would dislodge the logjam Biden himself created in 2020 when he dispatched a sprawling field of Democratic contenders, a field that included Harris. Obviously, it created doubts and problems if he waits and waits and waits, said Democratic strategist Mark Longaberg, who continues to believe Biden will run and that he won't put off a decision for too long. But if he were to somehow not declare until June or something, I think some people would be stomping around. There'd be a lot of negative conversation among Democratic elites, and I think that would force him to ultimately make a decision. I just don't think that he can dance around until sometime in the summer. Biden and much of his inner circle still insist he plans to run, with the only caveat of being a catastrophic health event that renders him unable. Anita Dunn, Jen O'Malley, and Dylan and Mike Donilon have effectively overseen campaign and waiting, with Donilon consider shifting over to a campaign proper while other managing operations for the White House. So essentially, just to kind of like give you the TLDR, it seems like some people within the Democratic Party might have the idea that there is a possibility that he doesn't end up running. Really, what policies do they even have as a party, as Trump mostly moans and saying the nebulous things about greatness? Yeah, there's no policies. It's all there's no policies in the Republican side. There's mostly just like culture war issues. That's the most of the things that they can lean on. It's just culture war garbage. That's literally all they have. That's literally all they have. Aggrievement, yep. Buttigieg just navigates the party agenda, but if you saw him run circles around Fox News, people on the air traffic debacle. Well, yeah, the thing is that, like, I think that he has I think that he's like a politician and knows how to speak well. Can't say the same for his actual decisions or lack thereof. I'd say his health is an issue. Right, but him doing just politics doesn't mean he's doing good decisions. I'd say his health is an issue, as I generally like Biden because he's not a guy who listens to public opinion too hard and looks pretty fit. But the reality is he's 80 soon, and I used to do volunteer work with the elderly, and they get sick and they go downhill fast. I just hope he doesn't have a stroke. Will Pete win with the country or not? I don't know what that means. Like, he's not going to run for president. Yeah, I mean, like, I can, you know, have good rhetoric, and I can do politics, and I know how to address points. It's a different ball game. Aggrievement is a symptom of narcissism and psychopathy. It's a part of projection. You project blame and co-op victimhood, and they believe it. Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty common theme with conservatism. Yes. It's a pretty common theme with conservatism in the sense that, like, as much as they cry about this idea about, like, liberal snowflakes or whatever the heck pejorative you want to insert, the liberal fragile snowflakes, it's funny that they always try to paint themselves as the victim. Would Pete have enough popularity to run for an executive office? I don't know. The problem with not Biden is that there's a pretty big empty hole underneath him when there's no standout candidate really exists. Obviously, you could end up with a rising star out of the left field, but it's a risk. All the other people touted couldn't even beat Biden. Yep. Pete running is how the Dems lose. I don't think he's gonna run. Or you mean like Pete's decisions? Pete's decisions is how the Dems lose? I mean, yeah, I would say that the way he handled this situation is not good. I'd say the only bet they have is Gavin Newsom, but Shapiro looks okay, but it's not a huge pool to draw from. Yeah, I don't know who else, if anybody else. The question then becomes is like, if there is a scenario where Biden doesn't actually run, then what? Then what? Buttigieg if they're desperate, but it's too early. Yeah, I don't think Pete Buttigieg. I don't think that Pete Buttigieg could win a general election. I don't think so. Heck, I don't even think. Dang, there's not really much. There's not really much to pick from in terms of like the Democratic Party. The victimhood stuff from some Christian right, as Jim Baker literally claimed that the left are all atheists and trying to make America a godless country. True, yes we are. And then you need to buy his buckets of Bibles and bury them in your gardens. True. That's how you stop. That's how you stop the radical left. Okay. You buy a bunch of Bibles and bury them in the garden. I have gods plural. It's better than one or none. True. Girly Bear, how's it going? Bernie, I don't know if Bernie's gonna run again. I mean, if he does, I mean, I would prefer him over Biden. If he runs in the primary, if there's a challenge. And I would definitely vote for him. I would definitely vote for him in the primary and in the general. I'd advise against it, but if he does, no harm done. Yep. If it's not Biden, it's Harris. That would be a mistake. That would be a mistake. That would be a mistake. All right, folks. It is 7:22. I do have to get going, and I am starving. I am starving. Folks, the only way he would is if the DNC gave him their legit support, not like last time. I mean, he might not run. Biden Mayo Pete wouldn't allow the railroad workers to strike. Yep, it's a thing that happened. See ya. No problem. Thank you for stopping by. Folks, if you haven't already on your way out, make sure you hit the follow button. You get 6 free emotes. Join us Monday through Thursday, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll be back tomorrow. As always, folks, please stay safe. Please take care of each other. I love you all, and I hope to see you guys in the next one tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Yes. Keep collecting those cat emotes. Thank you all. I appreciate the support. You guys are what makes this channel grow. I really appreciate it. Yes, a cat beanie is definitely necessary at some point. Thank you guys for the support. Thank you for the biddies. Thank you for the follow. Thank you to Left Flank Vets for a massive raid. I appreciate it. Make sure you follow twitch.tv/leftflankvets. Make sure you also follow some of the wonderful diamonds in chat. I appreciate the support. Thank you for the raids. Thank you for the follow. Thank you for the biddies. You guys are awesome. I appreciate it. As always, please stay safe. Please take care of each other. I love you all, and I hope to see you guys in the next one tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. See ya. Thank you, Michael Hasser. Appreciate it. All right, folks, we're heading out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. See you.